presents BizTech2 TV, a channel on BizTech2.com, tailor-made for the CIO community, with an on-demand lineup of shows covering all areas of enterprise technology, so that you can leverage the power of technology. Log on to BizTech2.com. From technology.
Concerns on what's happening on the redemption front and whether or not we're seeing serious outflows because of redemption fears right now. Mehraj Mattoo, Global Head of Alternative Investment Strategies at Commerzbank, joins in for more on that. Mehraj, morning. First, a word on these fears of redemption pressures kicking in, particularly for hedge funds. Is that something you're hearing of?
Good morning. Yes, hedge funds obviously are facing redemptions. The last quarter of the year is particularly important, as many investors, institutions in particular, balance the books towards the end of the year. So, and obviously, yesterday was the date put in notices for these redemptions for this quarter. So clearly this quarter is very important, and I do expect redemptions which are significantly higher than the usual we see in the last quarter of the year.
Mehraj, morning. Would a significantly higher number of redemption requests have come in yesterday, you think, from a lot of investors? And typically, would hedge funds have enough cash to redeem these requests, or would they need to raise cash over the next 15 days?
Well, clearly, I think as I say, the redemptions will be significantly higher than the usual amounts that we see. Hedge funds, as you know, out of the $2 trillion hedge funds manage, about $600 billion is in cash at the moment. So hedge funds have obviously been playing it safe throughout the last 6 months of the crisis in particular. Many hedge funds will gate. Obviously, not all hedge funds are in cash. Yesterday, there were a number of hedge funds that decided to gate again, which is obviously very disappointing for investors globally. Others, as I say, they are significantly in cash. The cash positions in hedge funds are very significant. So many of them will be able to meet these redemption requests. But some of them are in liquid strategies, and for them it's going to be difficult, and many of them I expect will gate.
Could you give us some number or some sense of how many hedge funds are actually folding up right now?
Well, obviously, hedge fund industry is a very dynamic industry. We do have a lot of hedge fund startups every year, even in the normal circumstances, and a number of them actually don't make it. Every year, we have 200 to 300 hedge funds folding in normal year. Clearly, this has been anything but a normal year, and the number of hedge funds that have closed this year has obviously been significantly higher. But you got to realize that many of these hedge funds really are very small in terms of assets they manage, so they don't actually have a significant impact on the market itself. But clearly, a lot of what's going on now is driven by fear and panic, and every negative aspect of the business plays on itself. So clearly, when people hear 500 to 600 hedge funds have folded, it's very scary. But frankly, most of these hedge funds are very small. They're insignificant for us in the industry. But there have been obviously a number of high-profile hedge funds that closed as well. And as you know, the current phase of the crisis, if you like, came to fore with the closure of a couple of hedge funds at their cerns. Beginning of the year, late last year, we had some failures. So there have been obviously some very high-profile failures this year, but a number of hedge fund failures actually are small hedge funds.
Mehraj, any India-specific funds that have wound up as well, and even ballpark, any idea of the kind of size they were running or the kind of AUMs they were running?
I don't know of any major India-focused hedge funds that have closed, but I know of many India-focused hedge funds that are struggling at the moment, clearly.
If the call is, Mehraj, that there has been significantly more redemption requests than you've seen in the past, do you expect October to generally be a tough month for India by way of outflows?
That is quite possible, because what's happening is when you have various types of funds, obviously, who invest in Indian equities in particular. You have, obviously, the India-focused hedge funds, of which there are about 200. Then you have hedge funds that are generally focused on emerging markets, and as part of their emerging market investments, they would have an allocation to Indian equities. You also then have hedge funds generally who typically, the multi-strategy ones might actually have 5 to 10% in emerging markets, who would have a part of that into Indian equities. So the outflows can come actually from various sources, even within the hedge fund industry. And I think unless we have some sort of political resolution in the U.S. soon, like in the next couple of days, certainly within the week, clearly the risk aversion is vis-a-vis emerging markets is going to grow. I mean, as you know, last year was emerging markets was the best performing strategy within the hedge fund industry, and this year it is proving to be one of the worst. So clearly that will have an impact.
Mehraj, we do appreciate you joining in.